welcome back for another special presentation for MSFPV. We got a big announcement today. I'm here with my co-host, Northern Goblin. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, sir. I hope you're well, but I'm afraid we're going to have to dispense with the usual pleasantries because we've got a lot to cover today, some very big breaking news. And with that, I'm going to leave you all in the capable hands of Evdog. Take it away, sir.
Welcome to the second installment of our weekly stream. We've decided to release this early to address a significant change in the game, the new diamond progression system. Over the past 4 months, we've been in close collaboration with Scopely to make this happen. While we understand that not everyone may be pleased with the final results, it's a testament to Scopely's commitment to listen and work with us towards a compromise. We first saw this in July with the initial version of the system, and it was made clear that this change was inevitable. It was coming. We were told that we were seeing it rather late, and the best we could do at this point was to suggest some minor adjustments to the existing plan. The council's response was that the system was far from ready for release, and we requested a delay so that it could be addressed more effectively. Scopely agreed, pushed back the release indefinitely, and we started working on a better solution. This was our first major interaction with Scopely. It really set the tone for how we would work moving forward. Their commitment to actually listening to what we had to say was tested, and their response was unprecedented. Last week, we were asked our proudest moment being a council member. I couldn't answer that last week, but this was it for me. In today's stream, we aim to, 1, ensure that all facts are accurate. 2, discuss the collaborative process with Scopely that led to the final product. 3, delve into the steps in advance of this new rollout. And 4, dispel any myths that this change benefits one segment over another by examining the impacts on different player segments. We hope to help everyone understand the positive impacts these changes bring about. We'll focus on 3 major highlights: incursion campaign, S.W.O.R.D, and satellite. S.W.O.R.D, satellite, and diamonds. Shewski, you could take it from here.
Hi, everyone. So, yeah, as Ev was saying, the council was really formed in late June, and at the start of July, this was the first meeting we had as a group with Scopely. This was one of the major topics, and it is amazing to look back on what we've done the last 4 months. It just gives you a little idea of the sort of lead time that we have, and it was very exciting to work with them and to see what this progression system is like. So when it was shared with us at that very first meeting, it was fairly similar to what this end result was. They already had a lot of it worked in, and they were not looking to reinvent the wheel or to try to ramp up things too much beyond where 7 reds are. So we as players have an idea of what a 7 red sort of character looks like. And the big variables that might affect that 7 red are, well, what's the character's base stats? How new are they, et cetera? And so this was looking to extend that a little bit more. It was just going to be like the red stars, it was going to be an extension of stat changes. And the big challenge and the big reason, as Ev sort of hinted at, our initial response was, okay, we understand that you are going to do this, that you want to add this new progression. But in essence, what are you going to do about the current roadblocks that you have in the game? This was sort of the thesis statement that we had as a group. We totally acknowledge that there is a need for another progression in the game, that we're really, they've really inundated the game with red stars for many years now. And so people have, especially as they started to loosen up of late, they've been able to really apply those red stars where they wanted to see that impact. And so now, with this new progression set, if the requirement is 7 yellow and 7 red, it begs the question, Okay, well, how are you going to get me that? Because let's look at where we are right now with yellows. Uh, I happen to know we were working on some things we'll share later on. They literally just added, who was that, World War II cap to the Crucible store of late. And that was about 7 months after he released. That's not going to fly. That sort of timeline does not work. And so there's other variables too, shard drops, some things that aren't in stores and just in nodes. Who knows what you're going to get when you roll the dice and spend energy on that. So we knew that yellow stars needed addressed. We knew that red stars needed addressed. We've talked a lot about that. We see that most drastically in the game in the incursion mode. But the overall challenge is we needed to remove both of those, because if we don't remove both of those roadblocks before we introduce a new roadblock, you're just going to break the back of the free to play. But if we don't give the spenders, if we don't give the people who are in this hero collector game something to collect, something to work on, they're also going to get bored. There's a symbiotic relationship that we're working with. And so we have this little graphic that we made up to sort of explain where we're going to go with the rest of our conversation tonight. We're going to talk first about the yellow star leg of the stool. This is something that is absolutely needed, and I'm absolutely excited to see and share with you all. Two, we're going to talk a little bit more about the flattening out the existing progressions with red stars. In a lot of cases, it feels like red stars, even before incursions, were in a little healthier place than yellow stars. So maybe not a huge amount of detail, but it is an important piece that we wanted to see addressed. And third, we want to talk about how are we going to earn these? Because again, we know there are going to be offers. It's okay that there are offers, but there's got to be also some methods to earn this new progression system. We're going to talk about those pathways as well. Once you have all three of those, as you can sort of see, then the path is made clear to introduce this new progression, to introduce this diamond system. To help explain more about what's going on with improving yellow star farmability, I have my friend Shrewd Shark to help us take it through.
Thank you, Shewski. So let's talk a little bit about yellow stars, the foundation of all of our characters we all know and love. We all know that farmability is a big concern. It's been something that is the first thing that comes to mind when a new patch rolls out. Who are going to be new characters going to be farmable? How are we going to be able to increase our yellow stars in order to gain better access to some of these red stars that have been flowing more of late? That's something we're going to be addressing right now. What is the time frame around, how long it's going to take for an engaged player once it does become farmable, whatever capacity it does? How are they going to be able to acquire it and get their characters up to 7? How do we balance what the advantage that the spender gets versus the time and effort that the free to play and the whole spectrum along the way is going to have to put in order to get that character up to 7 as well. And ultimately, what we wanted to do was get some consistency, get some regularity, get some awareness around how these yellow stars can be acquired, and ultimately give everybody confidence in a system moving. So the timelines that have now been committed to by our friends at Scopely. So day 0, when a character is initially offered up for money, that starts the clock. Somewhere along the way, there's going to be a release event for the various characters in whatever capacity it is. Sometimes it's a couple days, sometimes it's a couple weeks, but that's going to happen somewhere there. At day 120, so 120 days after the offer has been released, we're going to have a commitment to farmability, and that's a huge gain, something we have not had up until this point. And furthermore, day 210, so about 7 months after a character has been offered for money, engaged player can expect to have that character at 7 yellow stars, something that has never been able to been said before. This is a huge win for the community as a whole. So how are we going to do this? That was the first question we had as well. But Scopely is committed to a number of improvements to the overall yellow star economy. to help everybody in the no matter where they play. So we're going to see over once the new patch comes out, we're going to see a change to War Store. We're going to see a change to Raid Store. We're going to see a change to Arena Store, the Blitz Orbs, Raid Orbs. All these areas where we acquire stars are going to go up. So Raid and War Stores are going to see increases to the amount of character shards you can get there for the same price. War Store is going to see more character slots available. Raid Store is going to see more character slots available. And on the whole, we're going to see an increase farmability as well as drop rates on nodes and things of that nature. So our character Yellow Star availability is going to be dramatically. And to go along with that, we further have a commitment of a nice little care package that's going to come with the new patch with a variety of credits for all the stores. And furthermore, a commitment from Scopely to be monitoring what those, the economy of each of those stores is. So we're going to make sure that people aren't just blowing all their credits on these characters and having nothing else to do with the rest of the store. So that's going to be a huge improvement commitment. So this is going to be something that we are all going to collectively hold Scopely accountable for. And in order to do that, it's going to be this handy little calendar that will be publicly available for everybody to monitor. But we've got a sample here that's a little bit future dated. So we're looking at, we're pretending this is a November 2nd view of the calendar. But what on it, we can see that there's a variety of characters that are not farmable. There's a variety of characters that are due for farmability. There's a variety of characters that are in a position where we should be having 7 yellow stars of them if this system were in place already. And then we've got another set of characters that are a little more unique, a little more different in how they're released. So the first thing I want to call out on that column is, obviously we've got our legends and our scourge characters of that nature. We've got sort of asterisks around Vol, Kang, and the Undying teams. So there's a little bit of TBD on some of those. Those are going to have a little bit more variability in terms of how we farm them. And to a certain extent, that's fair. We know that there's always going to be characters that are going to be a little bit weirder, a little bit more nuanced in terms of how they're released or how they're done. So that's sort of our outlier case. But otherwise, we're going to be looking at the rest of the whole character release cycle and saying, okay, we're starting our clock today. Here's our move forward on day 120. I'm sure there's going to be people who are having their watch party for when that character ticks over onto 120 and find out where that character is going to become farmable. And then ultimately tracking on how well people are doing on that 7 yellow star journey. So this was all really important stuff. Huge win for the community and huge win for MSFPV. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Sevi.
Thanks, Shrewd Shark. So I'm here to talk about how we were able to flatten the existing red star progression. And we felt like this was extremely important, especially when trying to move towards the diamonds that are going to be beyond 7 red stars, because a lot of it is very heavy RNG based. People have a lot of feelings about how that was happening. And for many, specifically free to play and low spenders, those orbs are very difficult to come by. It's very coveted. So doing these things, we we wanted to make sure that we took that into account. The first thing that we did when we were talking to Scopely about this is say, you really need to ensure that the gold promo and the silver promo economy is really increased here. So what Scopely did initially was phase it out with big offers. A lot of people saw those gold calendar promos coming out. If you got those, it really put you in a much better situation. They also offered initial offers that were dropping down specific red stars as far as like orbs were concerned, and the promo credits as well. And another thing that we really wanted to make sure as part of our second phase was also having the incursion campaign come out that made red stars really farmable for people for the first time ever. We kind of felt like you couldn't just offer everything through the events and through offers without putting something in place that allowed future farmability to happen. So we also felt like if you flatten the red stars, you also had to bring out the new progression system. Because as we said, if you have nothing else to work for, then you're just devaluing a bunch of people for what they've either spent or put the time towards without anything else for them to work towards. So that was really important to us. I know personally, I ended up getting all of the calendars and I do fairly well in the events. Back in July, I happened to total up my red star count then, and I had 56 characters that were at 7 red stars. After all of the strike passes, the battle passes, the gold calendars, doing well in the events, I am now up to 169 7 red star characters. And I know that's not going to be typical for everybody, but I was actually talking to Goblin earlier, who's one of our co-hosts here. And I'll let him tell you about his experiences here.
Yeah, I mean, people who may have seen one of my other interviews elsewhere, I don't spend as much as other people. I had maybe 27 Red Star characters over 2.5 years of playing. I'm now, I've done up to a 200% markup. I'm up to 80 of them now. Which not all of them have got 7 yellows, which is also, again, why it's really good that we're going to get this new system to go with it. But the amount of characters I've been able to take up to a 7 red star, I mean, everything is now 5 minimum as well, which is huge.
Yeah, so by doing this, we really wanted to make sure that people didn't feel like moving on to diamonds past 7 reds was going to be wholly insurmountable for them. And with that, I'm going to pass this over to Mr. BetaRayBill so he can tell everyone about S.W.O.R.D Satellite.
Thank you, Sevi, as always. So you guys have heard today about 2 progression systems that were already in place that the council really pushed to flatten out and make significantly more available to the community. So we're excited to see that in everybody's hands shortly. But now the question comes down to, this is great, I've got my characters built up now. How am I going to earn this new progression system? Obviously, there'll be some offers that come out just as we experienced with Red Stars when it first rolled out. But strap on, basically we've got a new version of Avengers Tower coming out. This is a much more advanced tower mode. It was talked about in the release notes just a couple of weeks back. I think it was in September. And this is an exciting new tower mode. It's definitely more challenging. It's 40 floors versus the 105 that the existing Avengers Tower was. It will run for 10 days, but as a difference to the existing tower mode, you will be facing anywhere from 5 to up to 10 enemy characters per floor. They will not be coming at you in waves similar to the way Dark Dimensions are. You will have all the characters on the field at once, spawned as soon as you go in. So this is going to tax your creativity and your theory crafting in how to achieve your results on each of these floors. So it's definitely more challenging. It was a lot of fun to be able to play test it a little bit. One of the things that when we were first presented S.W.O.R.D Satellite was that Scopely was thinking ahead, trying to make sure people didn't get too frustrated with it by thinking that they would put a hard gating on it. 7 yellow, 7 red was what their first thought was. The council pushed really hard back saying, you know what, just let the difficulty of the floors be the gating, let people experience it, and maybe people as part of that process decide that they want to upgrade some tunes to be able to progress further through it. So this is another area where it was very collaborative and they listened and they agreed. And so they did remove any 7 red star, any red star requirement for that matter. And there is a 5 yellow star entry point, which, yeah, I could argue that you're probably not going to get very far if you don't have 7 yellows on a character that you're using here anyway. So it's a really low entry point. There is more checkpoints, so you're not going to have the situation like on the normal Avengers Tower where you're going to get through 20, 25 floors and then maybe don't quit out fast enough and you accidentally fall 25 floors down. There are many more checkpoints, and I believe it's a maximum of 5 floors that you could fall in at any one of these checkpoints. The good thing about this, though, is this is going to be one of the main ways that you're going to earn credits towards unlocking the new diamond progression system. This is not a replacement for the existing Avengers Tower. This is an adjunct tower mode. Think of it as an advanced tower mode. They will both continue to exist. They'll rotate into the game as the calendar permits. And so we're excited that people will have an opportunity to challenge and push their rosters even further. In addition to S.W.O.R.D Satellite, there will also be reworked Cosmic Crucible rewards coming, and that will also apply credits towards diamonds. So in addition to offers, there will also be some free-to-play ways to earn credits, albeit a little bit slower, but there will be opportunities to earn credits towards the diamond system. So all of this that you've heard about today, from the incursion campaigns to flattening the red star and the yellow star economies to S.W.O.R.D Satellite, are all essentially opening the progression to how you get to a new progression system called diamonds. The incursion campaigns, as you heard Sevi talked about, brought farmability to red stars for the first time. I think people are pretty familiar with it now. It's been in game for a little bit. S.W.O.R.D Satellite, you'll hear more on that information in the blog and coming out shortly as well. And then, of course, diamonds. And we're going to leave diamonds in terms of how they operate, how you can use the orbs that come with diamonds and all that to the blog post. And we'll be able to talk about it potentially more a little bit later in the week when we do a more in-depth discussion about diamonds and how they operate. But we're real excited. We've been working, as you heard Ev say, and Shewski, we've been working on this with them for a good 4 months. And it's really cool to finally see this come to fruition. We think it'll be a super positive influence on the game. And on that, I pass it back to Ev to talk about any potential concerns or objections people might have.
Okay, so now we'll deal with some concerns that the community might have. Some feel that it's not ideal to have progression gated by anything. They worry that it'll widen the gap between spenders, mid-spenders, and free-to-play will suffer greatly. So this might not be popular, but I'm hoping that being candid with the community, you believe the sincerity of the message. This is still a business. And part of the reason Scopely works with us, as opposed to ignoring our voices, is we have proved that we understand and try to factor these things into our solution. It's a game built around progression systems and resource management. And to put it bluntly, that's how they make their money. If they don't make money, we have no game. So the point here is we can't flatten out the disparities in spending buckets without breaking the game. We can't recreate a system where free-to-play are competitive with spenders. This would invalidate spenders' contribution to keeping the game alive. We instead took the position of removing or flattening the bottlenecks that prevented players from participating in the new system. But the pace of participation is still going to be based on your spending buckets. So it's my guess that Scopely will slowly roll this out, and the pathway to diamonds will be slow or costly, like it has always been. Those are your two options. You grind or you pay, or you do a bit of both. Our second concern is we understand that people may be concerned that diamonds might gate future content. We don't know how they will tune new content yet, but it's a safe assumption that eventually at the highest levels, things will require diamonds. But once again, I don't see how the current plan is any different from what has happened in the past 5 years. People will continue to compete within their spending buckets. I personally think, if anything, we are now in a better place because we finally have an agreed upon farmability cadence that we can hold Scopely responsible for. Spender advantages now have a timeline and limit. So there's also the issue of farming not coming early enough. And once again, as I said, this is a business. And although it is popular sentiment to disparage spenders, it's unwise in the overall view to discredit or invalidate their contribution. Scopely needs players to spend to keep the doors open. To do this, they need to give spenders the correct value for their spend. It's just the way business works, period. There's no other way to put that. Completion, some people may think completion is coming too late and characters won't have relevance any longer by the time they can complete them. So we did as we've mentioned several times, we did a spreadsheet, and characters typically lose relevance around around a year to 18 months. We've created a spreadsheet where you can keep track of this. For example, 6 months completion, the characters you'd have access to right now would be Invaders, Rebirth, Masters of Evil, Deathseed, War Dogs, Unlimited, X-Men, Darkhold, and a few others. All of those characters are still relevant. You still need to prioritize and manage your resources, but the options are not outdated at the 6 to 7 month mark. Lastly, there's a concern that we can't trust Scopely to live up to their word on farmability. We asked for their farmability plan up front, and we intend to hold them accountable through the hard copy spreadsheet on the server. We made it clear to Scopely that we'll need to be aggressive holding them responsible, and their response was brilliant. So I do believe they intend to keep their word. On that note, we hope to wrap this up. We hope we've given you guys all enough information to feel somewhat comfortable with this new space, and hopefully willing to give it a try before you make any assumptions or decisions. We went through a painstakingly long process to get this in place, and we thought would be fair for all sides.
All right, thank you, Evdog, and thank you guys for joining us today. We're going to be doing another video in a few days as a follow-up to this, so get yourself in the MSFPV Discord if you haven't already. Get yourself in the questions to the council channel, and we'll be taking the best questions about this new whole system to the council in a few days, and you'll be able to get your responses in.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how all this plays out. This is obviously bombshell news, and you know, looking forward to talking with you guys, in a few days.
All right, take care, and until next time, see you all around.